We're going to have to unlearn unlearn how we expect people to become congregational Christians in order to get the gospel or to participate in discipleship, because the numbers of people that are susceptible to being congregationalized is a shrinking part of our population. And as I said in our very first session then, how to engage people right in the rhythms of their life requires that we're going to have a much expanded bandwidth of how church expresses itself in our culture, much like what's going on in India or China or in parts of Africa. How we reconnect with a movement that is not forced into being clergy-driven, clergy-led, clergy-centric, but as we move into a more kingdom-centric kind of orientation, then how will we disciple people in the myriad of missional communities that are springing up, or internet churches that are springing up, or all of these other ways that people are churching that don't conform to the congregational model of Third and Main every 7 days, an entire business cycle. So what you're doing here and learning how to be a more missional disciple, even through online learning and all that, is really another way of pushing this envelope forward. And as you figure out how you're engaging and how you're growing through just the kinds of discussions that we are having, it might be just the way that you help your neighbor also learn how to develop as a person, because these issues transcend just church discussions. There's not a neighbor that you have that you can't talk with about their vision for their life, their values, their own scorecard, what they need to be learning. See, I'm looking for categories of ways that you and I can be salt and light and have God conversations with people, not church conversations. Because as you know, I don't have to convince you anymore, surely, we have enough study to prove all of this, that church conversations people have kind of allergic reactions to that, but people are wide open to God conversations in our culture. And if you want to be a follower of Jesus, part of being a follower of Jesus is then following Jesus into the lives of these people that he's working with, which means we have to unlearn the church language and we have to learn the God kinds of language so that we can engage people at that level. Now that brings up a whole nother set of questions. Then how do you learn? Of course, online. And who do you learn from? You learn online, you learn from reading, you learn all those how-tos. Some of you learn better through experience. Others of you actually learn pretty quickly through reading other people's experience. So you're pretty quick at reading and plug and play and making application. But it's more the question of who are you learning from that I want to just spend the last few minutes of this session together. And that is, who are your mentors? Who have you decided? And by the way, mentors don't have to agree to be your mentors in many cases. Some of them are dead. They can't agree to it. So, but you can read their stuff. And, others, in an age of blogs and everything, there are people that you can follow that have no idea that you're, soaking down their words and stuff. But there are other people that you can approach, even outside the spiritual realm, people that you respect, who kind of can serve in a life coach capacity. I remember there was a school principal when I was a student pastor. He was the principal of the high school in the town where I served. And for whatever reason, I just was drawn to him. He was a converted Jew, completed Jew, however you want to say that. But his family background had been Jewish, but he was a on-fire follower of Jesus. And we just hit it off. But I'm telling you, he taught me more stuff about life. I'm in my young 20s, and I'm a seminary student, and I'm single, and I would hang out with him anytime I could. There was something about the way, he and then even after we got married, my wife became also good friends with him and his family. And I remember, for instance, he came by the house when he spent the night with us, our first year of marriage. And Kathy and I were discussing something that we were going to change in the house. And we got into a little, and my wife's an interior decorator, and she knows stuff like colors and fabrics and things that I don't know anything about. But not knowing anything about something has never kept me from having an opinion about it. That's what qualifies me to be a consultant. And a life coach. I mean, I'm very good at things I have no idea what I'm talking about. But, people pay for this. Or some people pay. I don't know. Have I mentioned money in this session yet? I'm seeing the check. Things are good. Now, so now I'm freshly renewed and I can finish this session. How long do I have? 8 minutes. Pay attention. 7 minutes. All right, good. Are you paying attention? What was I talking about? All right, so Stas comes by and he spends the night with us, and he listens to this discussion. It has something to do about the shape of the toilets that we were going to refurbish our house with, or something like that. It was that critical. And I had an opinion. Kathy had it. He walks me out the next day. I walk him out to his car, and he turns to me and he says, "McNeal, have you spent all your life getting this stupid, or is this a fresh experience for you?" And that question, from a mentor, just had a way of suddenly creating a learning moment for me. And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, Reggie, who lives around who cares about this is her, who cares about the home more than her?" He said, "Just get what she wants." All right, now that is simple, but I'm telling you, that is profound. And because there's a guy willing to speak into a youngling at this point, a young married guy, and I had such respect for him. Who are those people that can speak into you? Or I remember, it's not just mentors we learn from, but it's also friends. I mean, friends that care more about us. I remember as a pastor, we had a little tiff at church. In fact, it was terrible. It was awful. It was the worst night probably in my pastoral, not probably, it's the worst night. We had a special call prayer meeting. Now, in Baptist language, special call prayer meeting is a euphemism for we're going down to the church and fight like cats and dogs. And so we'd had one of those special called prayer meetings where I felt like there was no prayer going on. Jesus wasn't even close, and I felt like a stranger in the church where I was a founding pastor. It was a very weird experience. It's too much to tell you about, but I remember when it was over that night, the chairman of deacons came by and said, "Let's go to Brahms." Now, Brahms, if you don't live in the southwest part of the country, if you Texas, Oklahoma, parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, Brahms is a dairy store. That's what they called. It's 118% milk fat in all of their ice cream and stuff. It is pure lard. It is fabulous, in other words. Their motto ought to be, "We are with you to the end." Or, in the end, I guess, depending on where you put it on. But the point is, we went to Brahms. It's a very low moment, and I ordered chocolate pecan double dip, because chocolate cures anything. And I'm sitting there talking, and I'm working, slobbering this stuff around. And my friend, chair of deacons, looks across the table and says, "You're going to have to forgive, Charlie," I'll just say. "This staff person is causing so much grief and all that stuff, and it's just a too long story." And I said, "Forgive him. I want to kill him." But you know what? This friend of mine, who is still one of my best buds today, he said, "No, you're going to have to forgive him." And you see, you got to have a friend who's willing to speak into your life the things that you need to know, not just what you want to hear. He was more concerned at that moment that my soul not be scarred than that I be right. And if you don't have friends like that, then you're impoverished. You got to learn from people. You've got to have those kind of people. I would quit. If you don't have friends like that, look, just shut this program down, minimize it, Google friends, and just go find one. Before dark, you just go buy them, rent them, whatever. You can't. Obviously, you got to be cultivating those people in your life. I'm going to come back to that in another session. But the learning thing. So who we learn from and how we learn, how we create the things and build the things into our lives that we need to move forward is a critical part. Now, it would be of being prepared. It would be my hunch that God is not caught off guard by what you need to know. It's just a wild thought. And so if that is possibly true, wouldn't it be just like God to put the people in your life already or around you that can meet this bill. Which means we got to pay attention. And we need to connect the dots, find out who these folks are, figure out with them what we need to know and how we get started at it, and go to work on it. My hunch is that there are things waiting to happen in your life, waiting for you to unlearn some stuff and learn some stuff. I think the whole reason Jesus had 3 years of ministry with his learning community that he created was not because he had a requisite number of miracles to perform or so many trips to Jerusalem he had to just get underway under his Hilton honors. But I think it had to do with the learning capacity and the speed and the content because of the learning community he created. When they had learned enough, and that's what he said, wasn't it? I've taught you, I've done what I can, I'm going to send you the teacher for the next leg. So you see, that's how important this positioning of learning is for those of us who would be missional followers of Jesus. He's still teaching. He's still measuring our learning. There's still stuff that he wants to show us. My hunch is you want it, and you want what he has for you. So learn your way into it. I'll see you next time.